Welcome back to the Friar Talk YouTube channel and podcast. Today, we're going to be recapping the Padres Diamondback series, one of hopefully the most forgettable series of the season for us Padre fans. And we're not going to be going live tonight. However, we are going to go live to talk about Jake Arrieta's first outing, which apparently it's written in on Wednesday. We haven't heard official news that he's signed yet, but it has been written in on, was it MLB at Bat Isaac that it basically had it in?
Yeah, pretty much John Heyman said it. I saw it on Bleacher Report. So I've seen a couple things saying he's penciled in for Wednesday.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we're going to be doing this week. Tomorrow we'll have an episode out about, what was it? It was going to be Darvish and Paddock and just kind of like the expectations for them when they come back. But we can kind of get into this Diamondback series. Very, very bad series for the first three games. Probably, I think, just the most aggravating first three games of a series all season long. Luckily, Sunday, Fernando comes back, goes full Superman mode and hits 2 home runs, a double, and a 2 RBI single. Dude absolutely tears the cover off the baseball. And I don't know if you've seen the stats, but he's hitting like over 500 with, I think, 4 home runs in his 3 days where he's came back off the IL. He has been an absolute monster in those days. But let's talk about these first 3 games first. Isaac, what were just your thoughts before Fernando came back this weekend?
It was definitely some rough sledding for the Padres. You never want to lose like that to a team like the Diamondbacks, the worst team in baseball. And when you see the stats that they brought up during the game, the Giants 14-2 against the Diamondbacks, I believe. So maybe it's a little higher. The Dodgers also do really good against the Diamondbacks. Same thing goes for both of those teams against the Rockies and us. We're like hovering around the 500 mark for both of those teams, and that just cannot be the case when it comes to trying to win a division. You got to be able to take care of the lowly teams in your division. That's unfortunately what the Padres aren't able to do. You saw those first 3 games. The first one, I mean, can't say it any lighter. Like, we got our asses kicked. The second one, I believe, is when Will Myers he had a good game, right? That's the one Chase went to. So luckily for Chase, he got to see Will Myers ball out, but lost in walk-off fashion in the bottom of the ninth. Craig Stammen on the mound. That was a gut punch after getting your ass kicked the day before, and then the third game you get no hit. So it was just gut punch after gut punch after gut punch, and you can really see that the life was sucked out of this team. Like, they looked uninspired. They looked like they barely had a pulse. And on Sunday, Superman comes and he finally gives this team a pulse. It looks like he kind of revived this team in a way. The no-hitter from the day before was broken on the very first at-bat of the next game, so that was good to see. He provided the spark that this team needed, and it was a very disappointing series overall. You never want to lose 3 games in a row to the Diamondbacks, especially coming off a couple good games against the Marlins, and you lost 4 in a row in total. Those were obviously the darkest days as a Padre fan this year, and I mean, everyone can say, like, yeah, we're appreciative that this team is playing meaningful games in August, and of course I am too, especially after for so long we haven't gotten that opportunity. But at the same time, like, I think we all came into this year expecting to finish at least second in the division, and that's still very possible. However, we're 10 games back of first, and that's great for the Giants. The Giants are playing some really good baseball, but we're just not playing good baseball against the teams that we're supposed to beat. And that was showcased here in this series, unfortunately. I guess I could talk about the pitchers now. Yu Darvish, unfortunately, goes on the IL. That's very unfortunate. It's been pretty solid for us all year outside of, when the sick stuff went away. He's been a little rocky, but he's had a couple good outings since then. Blake Snell, I actually thought had a pretty good outing, despite throwing 100 and something pitches in only 5 innings. That's a lot, but I actually thought he had a pretty good outing, quality start out of him. So good to see him string together a couple quality starts. The one we did not expect, Joe Musgrove, got rocked, unfortunately. Didn't have a good outing. And I feel like we've said it before. When he's on, he's a great pitcher. When he's not, he's not. Like he doesn't have it when he's not on. He's very rocky when he's not on. And I see a lot of people say they're confident in him starting a wild card game, and I would say I am too, for sure. It's just like it's scary for me. Like I don't have full-fledged confidence the way the Dodgers would with Walker Buehler and Max Scherzer.
One thing I'll say real quick about that is, have you noticed that when he has a rough outing, it'll be one inning where he really gets rocked.
Yeah, he gets destroyed with just one.
I think last outing, I want to say did he allow 7? Were they all 7 his, or was it just 6?
I believe it was 6.
6? Okay, so the last run just came later on in the game. He had like 3 scoreless innings after the first. But oftentimes he'll come in, he'll pitch 3 scoreless innings to start the game, and then the 4th inning they'll score 4 runs on him. And I'll be like, oh, he went 6 innings and 4 runs. But it'll be like he threw all 5 shutout innings, but then that one inning he got rocked. I don't know why that is, but it is a little bit interesting. Like and it's not like he doesn't like allow base runners the other inning. It's not like he's just like 1, 2, 3. Like he'll get guys on, but it's like one inning where they score like all their runs. It's really weird how that's the case. Maybe that's just kind of how baseball's changed the mentality to like have a big inning. But I don't know. It's just a little bit odd because I've noticed it's almost always like that. Darvish, of course, that was really unfortunate too. Snell, Isaac, I think it's good that Snell's showing signs of life. Like this was definitely a frustrating series, but Snell is showing some serious signs of life. And also like, even though Musgrove had a rough outing, do you still feel confident in him?
Yeah, of course. I think, every pitcher is going to have some rough outings. Unfortunately, it just came at the time where our fan base, where the Padres in general are at rock bottom, really. So it's just not very inspiring to see it. But of course, I have some confidence in him down the road. I think he's going to bounce back. He's been a great pitcher for us all year. If you look at the ERA, he's been our best pitcher, and I have no doubts he'll bounce back.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I don't know. I'm pretty high. Sorry about that, guys. I'm pretty high on those 2 guys. I think moving forward for the playoffs. Now I know Snell's not had the best year, but he has looked a lot better. There's been some improvements made on this Padres team. I think Snell's has been one of the bigger guys of that, where he, if he actually, if he puts his changeup on timeout, which unfortunately we were talking about this before, and it kind of gets into, I wanted to discuss this a little bit with you about, Larry Rothschild, but his changeup, like he has to put it in timeout. And he's talked about it. It sounds kind of funny when you hear him talk about it, but his changeup used to be one of his best pitches. And Isaac, do you want to talk about what we're kind of saying with the slider guys under Larry compared to the changeup guys under Larry?
Well, I mean, the slider guys, and we know Larry Rothschild loves that slider. The slider guys have been pretty successful. Dinelson Lamet put up a Cy Young candidate type year under him. Unfortunately, he got hurt. Injury problems have kind of been a thing for Dinelson Lamet, unfortunately. But under his tenure under Rothschild, had an amazing year. Say the same for Joe Musgrove, slider dominant, off speed dominant pitcher, having a really good year so far. And we always knew he had that kind of potential in Pittsburgh. So coming to us, we were kind of high on him because we knew he has the stuff. And Larry Rothschild, obviously, like I said, loves that slider, and he's been very successful under him. Now, CC Sabathia loves Larry Rothschild. I was looking at his numbers. CC Sabathia, I believe, and I don't quite remember what years he was under Rothschild, but I believe he was throwing the slider around 27 to 33% of the time under him. It's kind of a lot. And that was one of his better pitches, I believe. And then you look at the changeup guys, Blake Snell, that changeup, one of his best pitches before he came to us. Now he doesn't even throw it. He doesn't have the confidence to throw it anymore. And what is he throwing? What is he throwing more often than not? The slider. Now he's throwing that. Now that's one of his more thrown pitches.
And then we were talking about Paddock too, and Paddock doesn't throw a slider.
Yeah, exactly.
But it seemed like his curveball this year has been a better pitch than his changeup. And he's a guy that was his like most dominant pitch. So, and also if you guys, because I think a lot, I don't know how many people like subs we had at this point or how many people were listening, but if you go back a while, and I'll tag this video in here, it was about 3 or 4 months ago, we had a segment, it was called Injury After Injury. And it was just about the pitching injuries. And it's been concerning. We've been super concerned about this. And now everyone's kind of getting on board of fire Larry Rothschild. And I don't even know if that's I don't know if that's even the answer. I don't think just firing him just fixes everything. Yeah. But there's a clear problem with the Padres. is that pitchers are dropping like flies, and it seems that they've dropped, even more often under Larry Rothschild. Now, there's also some serious developmental problems with, a lot of these pitchers within the Padres organization. The hitters seem to develop pretty well, but the pitchers have not been developing as well. And like you look at all these hiccups with Mackenzie Gore, you look at all of these injuries, and especially all of these injuries to younger guys, Morahone, like a lot of guys in the minors have been getting hurt. Really just throughout the whole staff. But I'll tag that segment. I think it was from like 3 or 4 months ago. I'll have it on top in the description. But you still feel the same way, right, Isaac?
I don't think he's the root for all of our problems. I think he's the root for some of them. Just because, this kind of sounds dumb, but he's not the one that goes out there and pitches. Overall, the guys themselves got to be able to produce. But like I said, one of Blake Snell's best pitches back then was the changeup. And now, obviously the slider looks good now, and that's what he's throwing more often than his changeup. He's throwing the curveball too, but the changeup has completely gone away. Chris Paddock's changeup doesn't look the same as it did his rookie year, so that's unfortunate as well. His curveball does look a lot better, and it really, if you look like toward the back end of May, there's been a lot more quality starts out of Paddock than there has been crappy starts, where as in last year, there was a lot more crappy starts than quality starts. So that's quite a development from him. But other than that, I'm glad to see finally people are on board with this whole Rothschild thing, because he's ruined some, let's be real, he's kind of ruined some careers. People have come out and said they don't like him. And of course, CC Sabathia, that's a credible guy that you want to say, cool, he likes him, so, we should like him too. But there's other credible guys that didn't like him, that, said some pretty bad things about him. And I think now we're all looking at it, and now we're all like, okay, now I see where these other guys were coming from. Something's got to be done. I don't know if it's got to be with Larry Rothschild. I don't know if somebody's got to have a talk with him, or if he has to go altogether. Injuries are a huge concern. If I remember correctly, he had a lot of injuries in his past as well. I'll have to look into that.
On the Yankees, yes.
Yeah, right. I remember that. Something's got to be done, though, because Clevenger going down, Lamet going down, Morahone going down. It's ridiculous. We have a whole rotation full of pitchers on the IL and a bullpen.
It's really scary.
Yeah, it really is.
Kind of my last question on Rothschild, and I'll answer it first. But should he be fired now?
No.
My answer is no. Yeah, my answer is definitely no. I'm very against ever firing a coach in the middle of the year. I don't think that's how you get pushed into the playoffs. I think that also I don't think there's really any chance that happens either. So I don't want to see that happen. However, if this kind of keeps looking like it does to the end of the year, we are definitely going to revisit the conversation of should Larry Rothschild be fired. That's something that we will definitely do. I'll also add on this part right now, we'll probably do the same with Jace Tingler depending on how the year goes. And I don't think I'm going to want to fire Jace Tingler at the end of the year. I'll say that right now. I'm expecting to stay, to move forward with Jace Tingler. I know a lot of people don't like that either, but I'm not ready to exactly cut ties with him. It does seem like, and it's hard. It's a tough conversation. I just think that a lot of times when you fire a manager, that next year is a lot of times you take a step back, and that doesn't mean that won't eventually happen, but you don't want that to be in 2022, which has seemed like this really important year for when guys are going to get called up, when CJ Abrams is probably going to be a part of this team, when Mackenzie Gore hopefully has, his stuff figured out. But we'll definitely discuss those later on and in the off season. But that's just kind of where I stand now. But what about you, Isaac?
I don't think Jace Tingler should go anywhere, at least not this year. I know people have so far compared him to Andy Green and former San Diego Chargers head coach Mike McCoy. I've seen a couple times you guys compare him to him. And I don't blame you guys. Mike McCoy would always go up there and say, we had a great week of practice. I don't know what happened today, but we're looking forward to having another great week of practice. And he was very chill at the podium for some reason. And you kind of see that out of Jace Tingler. He doesn't really have that fire in him that people want out of a manager. He doesn't have that he doesn't fire you up. He doesn't get me, when he gets tossed out, personally, for me, when I see somebody get tossed out, I want them to get their money's worth. Jace Tingler, far from gets his money's worth. It doesn't really look like he fights for his guys. Schumacher, I see a lot of people love Skip Schumacher. He fought for his guys. I love that out of him. But Jace Tingler is I think he's a good manager. I think he's going to be fine. I don't think he's crazy great, but the talent on this team, he's going to be able to do some good stuff with it. I like the way he has his team going, and like I said, he doesn't have that fire. That's not the kind of guy he is, unfortunately. And I love that out of a manager, but I don't think Jace Tingler should go anywhere.
Yeah, and also just so you guys know, initially we wanted Ron Washington to be hired as the Padres manager, like when they went and hired Jace. So it's not like we're like, oh, we love Jace Tingler. That's not like that, but I don't think that he deserves to be fired at this point. And if you disagree, like please let us know, like tell us why. I get that it feels like they've been heavily underperforming, but I think that the excitement of this team, I think it honestly escalated like what we thought of them early on, especially this year, because they lead the division early on, and it makes you feel like, oh, like, they're going to go out and they're going to be like amazing. They'll be the best team in the league because they start out like that. But what were your initial kind of I don't know, what did you think early on? Because I thought this was a wild card team, and I still think that they can win it. It's getting a little scary, but where are you at overall with this team right now? Because I think that's the big question. I think everyone's kind of thinking is where does this team stand now? 2.5 games above the Reds. It's not that much. It seems like, I don't know. It's been concerning. I think it's definitely been concerning, but where do you stand with this team? And then we'll take off of this recap. I know we're not really recapping it, but it seems like we've hit a big moment in the season.
Yeah, I think coming into this season, if anyone expected us to win the division, you're a very positive fan. I expected us to. I didn't expect us to be this far out though. 10 games out, that's pretty ridiculous considering we went out there and we got the pitching that we needed. It hasn't come to fruition. It doesn't really feel like it's come to fruition all year. But I expected this to be a wild card team. But I didn't think we'd have to face the Dodgers if that was the case. Or I guess you could still say the Giants if they somehow blow it. But I expected this to be a wild card team. I expected it to be a home wild card game. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it'll be a home wild card game. But full on expected this to be a wild card team. And I mean, if it comes down to that one game play-in, I'm confident this team can go out there and win. I've said it in the group chat that we have. I said that, at this point, division seems kind of out of reach. It seemed like it was out of reach a long time ago, even though I was very optimistic that this team could still pull within a couple games. Now feels out of reach. Now we just got to get to that game. That's really it. Now we just got to get to that game, and this team has the energy. They have the confidence. They have the swagger. They got it all to go in that game and say, we're the real deal. We're about to beat the Dodgers, and we're going to show why we're one of the best teams in baseball and why it's time to stop. Calling us the Padres and saying, people like us, but it's just time that this team goes out there and they need to start playing some quality baseball here soon, because the Reds' schedule doesn't get any tougher. It's super easy, and this team's schedule only gets tougher from here on out. So this team needs to go out there, start winning some baseball games. Pitching staff needs to come around. Jake Arrieta, obviously, I don't think many people love the signing, but it's just a matter of maybe he needed a change of scenery, and we're not going to get into any politics or anything, baseball channel. But it's just a matter of how, we just got to hope he goes out there and provide some quality outings.
Yeah, so I think that's going to do it for today's episode. Like I said, we're going to be talking about Yu Darvish and Chris Paddock tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, we're going to go live. I don't know what time we're going to go live yet, but sometime, maybe right before the game, like we sometimes do. And we'll talk about the Arrieta move as a whole, because it seems like it's pretty much concrete, but we can never trust now because of certain other close trades. Sorry to bring that up, everybody, but I kind of had to. But yeah, that's going to do it. Also, if you guys listen on podcast form, we're going to start posting the podcast every day. So we're going to do segments on YouTube and segments on podcasts moving forward. But that's going to do it for today. So thanks everyone for listening, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.